Welcome to Guyana 411. This week we take a look at El Nino and its effects on various sectors. Stay tuned. The agriculture sector is the hardest hit one during this El Nino season. Rice, sugar, cash crops, and livestock are all facing difficult times due to the lack of rainfall as water channels are drying up.
At the moment, there are several hundreds of acres of land under cultivation in the agriculture regions of the country. To this end, the Ministry of Agriculture is working with all the relevant stakeholders to bring relief to the affected farmers. The sugar industry has also been severely affected by the drought-like conditions brought on by El Nino.
Because of the limitation of water, our planting program for this first half of 2016 would be reduced by more than 50%, as I estimate at this point in time. It could even be far more than 50%. So that would have a negative impact on yields in 2017 first half, because what you do one year, you reap the benefit the following year.
This year prepares the ground for next year.
For next year's harvest. So definitely, by reducing the planting program to less than 50%, obviously it will impact negatively on yields in 2017 first half. Also, the canes for the second half of 2016, growth in those areas basically has come to a halt. Under normal conditions, canes at that age will grow approximately 1 cm per day, and we monitor that right across the industry.
The weather pattern, which has been persistent, is anticipated to continue throughout the first quarter of 2016. Rice farmers are the ones heavily hit, as their production was not only affected by the drought-like condition, but also by the intrusion of salt water. General Manager of the Guyana Rice Development Board, Nizam Hassan, has stated that of the 177,734 acres sown thus far, 39,601 acres have been affected by El Nino conditions, while an additional 27,800 acres have been affected by saltwater intrusion. Interventions have been made in several of the regions to provide farmers with irrigation water.
We've been moving excavators around, some cases bulldozers, and doing different things to help farmers. Having said that, there are still some farmlands which have been adversely affected, and it's even possible that some farmers may lose their crop, or the yield would be affected. But we've been trying at the NDIA level to do our best so that the lands can still yield, to a maximum as much as possible.
At the national level, the Ministry of Agriculture has established a high-level task force to monitor El Nino situation and plan actions aimed at reducing any further impact it may have on the agriculture sector.
A multi-stakeholder approach is on the way to bring relief to the residents and farmers of Region 9.
A number of ministries and agencies are functioning within the Regional Emergency Operations Center in Region 9 to bring relief to those affected. 27 450-gallon water tanks along with 15 water pumps with both intake and outtake fittings were delivered to the region.
The plan is for the region to distribute those tanks and pumps to the areas that are most affected. And they go down to the source of the water that's closest to them. They fill those tanks and tractors and trailer, take it back to the community. And nearly all the communities would have reservoir. And they pump the water from the tank into their reservoirs. And that has been going on since. We've also given them water purification tablets which are put into the tank. But there's one problem with the water purification tablet when it goes into the water, and that it gives the water different taste, which the communities are not accustomed to. And that is forcing them sometimes not to either drink the water or not to put the tablets into the water. And we are trying to do all sort of things to let them understand. We did pamphlets and all sort of things and distributed to all the villages for them to understand the importance of purifying the water before they use it. Luckily, we have not had any serious outbreak of any sickness. They're coping so far, but we've also, in our interventions, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health in there, we've done a lot of leaflets and passed out to all the schools, to the villages and so on. And the Ministry of Health, through their operatives in the region, are going out and talking to people to ensure they understand the importance of keeping healthy.
In terms of agriculture, most of the crops have already been reaped and the cattle are moving towards areas where there is water.
We are hoping that the rains will come before. If the rains, however, do not come before, we might have to make other interventions, because most of the water then will be dried up. We might have to take water from other sources, or we might have to distribute bottled water. There might be a possibility that we might have to give them rations as well, because their sources, which is mainly cassava, is going to be out. And the amount that they did plant, they could now make enough farine of cassava bread to last them this long period. After this morning, I had some discussions with Mr. Van Charles on interventions, and there's a whole host of things that we plan to do. But that, however, will not help this situation as it is at present. That is now looking at the medium and long-term issues.
A request has been made to the United States Embassy through the United States Southern Command for 250 pieces of equipment that will aid relief efforts.
There's a system where they use one tank against the other, and there's a 5-gallon buckets. Like you can put the dirty water on top, and there's a filter in between, and then on the bottom where you can get the pure water from it. And we've requested them to give us 250 of these equipment, and we give them a plan how we plan to distribute it. This, however, is still not yet available to us. We are hoping it will become available very shortly. And this can satisfy 250 households. And we identified areas that are most needed.
Works are on the way by a Brazilian firm which has been contracted to dig 2 wells in the region. One well will be dug in deep south and another in the south central area of the region. Situation reports on the countrywide effects of the dry season are being sent to the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency so they can provide assistance should there be a need.
A prolonged dry season can have negative impacts on the health of a population. When water becomes scarce, people may be forced to choose whether they wash their hands or save that water for cooking. In areas where the population depends on rivers and creeks, a dry season can have severe health implications. Here we take a look at how we can protect our health during this time.
Local health officials are closely monitoring the effects of the prolonged dry season on the health of the population. Special attention is being placed on monitoring for the Zika virus. As the dry season continues, there are reports that the water level in creeks and canals are dropping. When the water gets low and stagnant, they present a perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes, including the Aedes aegypti mosquito that carries the Zika virus. The mosquito-borne disease is believed to be responsible for a number of Brazilian babies being born with microcephaly, a brain defect.
What we're doing at the Ministry of Health, our Vector Control and Environmental Unit, we are commencing this Friday. We are going to step up our awareness campaign so that we can able to reduce and eliminate the spread and the breeding sites of these vectors, all right, the Aedes aegypti, to control the spread of Zika virus. So I just want to encourage you to work with us. And in each region you have hospitals, you have the health centers, we have environmental health units. And so we have to work with a team. It's everybody's business. And so even though we have the water situation, we don't want to aggravate the situation. But let's, somebody see something, say something, and help us to conserve water And in our bids that make sure that in our storage, we'll ensure that we use our chlorine tablets.
While the Ministry of Public Health has a responsibility for taking care of the health needs of their population, it is necessary for the citizens to play their part.
Contaminated water can increase the spread of infections, all right, vector-borne, waterborne diseases, so just be careful. And I advise that each region will do your own advisory, and in terms of the homes, that they will able to ensure that we reduce the risk of infection.
The present dry weather pattern is expected to continue well into May. All of us would need to be very careful on how we use and conserve water because mosquitoes can also breed in stored water.
The level of conservancies has dropped significantly, and while some areas are not affected as yet, others are feeling the effects of the dry weather.
In region number 2, water to the farmlands is supplied from 4 conservancies: Eturibisi, Kapui, Mainstay, and Tapkuma. To the south of the Essequibo Coast, water is supplied by the Eturibisi Conservancy, and at present we have enough water and the farmers there have not really had a crisis. I'm talking there about the area between Good Hope and Queenstown. As you head further north, up into the Somerset and Berks area, we've had problems, and we've had to supplement water from the conservancies by pumping at Dawo. At Dawo, there are 4 120 cubic pumps, and they're capable of delivering about 250 million gallons of water per day. That water essentially comes from the Pomeroon River. One of the problems we've had is that as you pump water from the Dawo pumping station, that accelerates the movement of salt water up the river. At present, the salinity level is high up to about Charity, or somewhere between Charity and Kosher. And we have uncomfortable levels as far as Jackalope. We've also used another pump at a part they call cross drain, where we're helping to supply farmers with some water.
He also explained the situation in Region 3.
Region number 3, the coastland, is supplied with water from the Burisiri Conservancy. Let me give you an example of what's happening there. In the Burisiri Conservancy, the current water level is 57.00 foot GD, and the full supply level for that conservancy is 61.3 foot GD. The dead storage level for the Burisiri is 55.00. It means that we are right now just about 2 feet above the dead storage level. The dead storage level is the level below which, if you wish to get water out of the conservancy, generally you have to pump. So we just have about 2 feet of water, through that conservancy that we still able to use. We are supplementing the water from the Burisiri with 2 pumps at Waramia. Waramia is where you have the junction of the conservancy and the Bonasika River. And those 2 pumps have a capacity of 120 cubics. So that is keeping the water in the conservancy replenished.
Vandalism of structures is occurring, and the NDIA has to ensure that there is security. Flats explain that some contractors have that responsibility, but most times lapse. Those that has been vandalized has been repaired. However, Flats said that more will be done to ensure that the pumps and other structures are well secured.
Water is vital to life. All living things depend on it to survive. Apart from drinking, people have many other uses for water. In this next feature, we take a look at some of the ways in which we can conserve this amenity.
The demand for an adequate water supply has been drastically increased as El Nino bites deeper. Water conservation is the most cost-effective and environmentally sound way to reduce the demand for this service. The Guyana Water Inc. has now been forced to monitor the distribution of water in and around Georgetown. Hence, the service has been reduced within Georgetown from 22 hours or 10 p.m.
We know that the citizens of Georgetown require water at different times of the day, at certain levels. So we want to ensure that our groundwater sources and the surface level sources will be able to supply adequate amounts of water. The peak periods that we have are between 5 and 9 and between 11:30 and 12:30 and between 4 and 8 p.m. Those are the peak periods when the demand is very high. At this point in time, we want to ensure that the pressures at the peak periods will be maintained and be between 15 and 20 psi, which seeks to ensure that you will have adequate amounts of water at certain levels in your homes for you to carry out your activities during the peak periods.
The level of water in the East Demerara Water Conservancy has been decreased due to the prevailing El Nino weather conditions, which has resulted in drought. It must be noted that 60% of the water at the shelter belt is sourced from the Lama Conservancy. As a result, GWI is advising residents, hotels, hospitals, restaurants, and other service entities to store and conserve water. Water stored for food preparation and brushing teeth must be kept in a covered container to avoid contamination. Here are some tips to conserve water in your homes. Turn off the tap when you brush your teeth or shave. Take shorter showers. Use full loads in your washing machine, as this cuts out unnecessary washes in between. Install a container to your drain pipe. Water your garden with a watering can rather than a hose pipe. If you're taking a shower, don't waste cold water while waiting for hot water to reach the shower head. If you wash dishes by hand, don't leave the water running for rinsing. Don't defrost frozen foods with running water. Either plan ahead by placing frozen items in the refrigerator overnight or defrost them in the microwave. Don't let the outlet run while you clean vegetables. Rinse them in a filled sink or pan. Persons are also advised to reduce the amount of time they wash their vehicles and avoid washing concrete surfaces with water provided by GWI.
In terms of the overhead tanks, to install some valves which can control the overflow from many of the overhead tanks. There is significant loss of water from many of the overhead tanks due to the lack of inflow valves, and so we're asking residents to try to ensure that these are addressed with some immediacy to prevent the water loss. This means, therefore, that this call is not only for Georgetown. I think some time ago we had addressed this issue of national water loss, the non-revenue water loss from base of the production. And we are therefore asking residents also to inform us as soon as they observe leaks within the system or breakages within the system, because all of these things contribute to the loss of water and impacts on the supply of water to residents. So I think with what we are doing, together with the prudent measures which we will hope, and I see no reason why residents would not at this point have an understanding of the responsibilities they have.
GWI has intensified the monitoring of all distribution networks for leaks and breakages.
Thanks for watching Guyana 411. Do join us again next week. Remember, you can contact us on Facebook or on YouTube. Remember, let us all conserve water.